everyone, I'm Tiffany Woys, and this is Coffee with Krystle.
Hey you guys, I want to welcome you to yet another episode of Coffee with Krystle. This beautiful young lady, her name is Tiffany. Now your last name though, I am known to mess up names and I refuse to do that to you. So how do you pronounce your last name?
You wouldn't be the only one, so don't worry. It's Tiffany Woys. So I always like to tell people it's like boys or toys, but with a W.
Oh, I like, okay, all right. Yeah, I totally would have still messed that one up. So tell us a little bit about you. You are born and raised in California.
Yeah, Sacramento, Northern California. That's where kind of I get a lot of my influence with my music too, is because I wasn't born in the South, so I have a lot of that pop, like kind of like little rock influence into my music, and
Right.
I bring that into kind of like the evolving genre of country. I went to school in Sacramento, and then when I went to college, I moved to the Bay Area, and I was actually studying to be a lawyer. That's what the plan was.
Wow.
And that was mainly for my parents, because that was just something that, it was another form of performing too, which I think that's why I gravitated so much to it. I always loved music, but my parents, I think, saw it more as a hobby at first. And they weren't, I don't think any parent is like crazy excited when they hear your kid wants to do like entertainment.
Right, because they're so worried, like, okay, well, this could fail. What's the backup plan?
What's the backup plan? And that was the backup plan. And then I ended up moving home and putting together a band and then touring up and down the West Coast. And
Wow.
for about 4 to 5 years, doing all like the 4-hour gigs and the fun honky tonks and any festival or fair that I could even get on. And then it was, from there, it was like, okay, I'm kind of becoming a cover band, and I can't really pursue this country music journey that I want to be on in Sacramento. So it was then that I decided to pack up and move to Nashville.
How old were you when you moved?
It was 2 years ago, so I was 27.
Okay, so it wasn't like right out of college, like I'm moving to Nashville.
I went back to Sacramento for a while because I don't think I would have been ready.
Right.
I thought I was ready, and my parents would say I'm the most impatient girl ever. However, when it comes to what I love to do and my future, I'm very patient. So that was one thing that actually somebody who's kind of on my little team in Nashville kind of told me. They were like, 5-6 years ago, they were like, you're like on step 1, maybe even -1, and there's a lot to do before you can, actually participate in like the big leagues in a sense with everybody else.
Right.
And that was the first time I've ever actually listened to somebody in that way and been like, totally understand, totally get it. My parents like, wow, she must really want to do this. and I had to respect that at that point. I think they were just like, yeah, okay, so we'll really take the necessary steps that it took, and I was just so glad for the experience being on the road and actually learning how to be an entertainer and work out all the quirks and all the little mistakes here and there, which I'm gonna make more, I'm sure, but
of course,
it was such a learning lesson and so great. I loved every bit of it, and that's what I missed the most about being in California and touring up and down the West Coast is being on stage, because I really haven't had the opportunity to perform a lot yet in Nashville.
So you haven't done any of like the local bars in like downtown Nashville yet?
No, and I don't know if I will be. I'm not really sure if that's like the avenue that I'm taking, but that's what I miss the most is just being on stage.
I bet. I mean, especially being what you're doing. You want to be connected with the people. You want to see your fans singing along to your songs and getting your music out there. So it's got to be extremely hard.
It's really hard because sometimes, like right now, I guess like the method for a lot of things is just kind of like throwing it to Spotify and just kind of hoping if it sticks kind of thing. And while that's a great way and a lot of people have access to it, it's hard to get it noticed when you have so much like saturated in the market for you to be able to get things noticed and seen and heard. So doing things like this, I'm so appreciative, and sitting down with people like you who want to actually take time to listen and hear my story and like listen to my music. That doesn't happen all the time, and a lot of independents as myself like don't get the opportunity to do that.
I was going to say, are you with a label right now?
No, which there's pros and cons to it.
Right,
like,
absolutely.
Eventually I think every artist kind of like, I should not be speaking every artist, but I want to be on a label, hopefully one day. But there is a lot of pros to being independent, is you get to call your own shots of, when you put out music and what music you put out and that kind of stuff. And that's really important to me because I want it to really still remain authentic and about me. And that I think is a struggle. I think maybe getting signed sometimes is you don't get the opportunity to decide when you want to put music out or when you want to go around and do these kinds of things and talk to people. So that I'm going to not take for granted right now, and I really love.
While you're free, go ahead and do as many as you possibly can and see what happens. You never know.
Yeah.
You might not need a label. I don't know. I don't really know how hard it is on that end. Yeah, exactly. So how are your parents feeling now that you're independent, you're in Nashville now, and like this, you're following it? How are your parents feeling about that?
They're very supportive now.
It's awesome.
And I always say, it's funny when people talk about their parents a lot of the time, they say like, they're my biggest fans. Mine are, I'm not saying they're not my biggest fans, but they're also my biggest critics.
Right.
And in the best way possible. And I appreciate that too, because I want to know, I never like when people like sugarcoat things for me. I like it just to be like thrown out there.
Right.
And be like, hey, like that's not good. So like the relationship I have with like my producer is so great. First, when we first met, it was like, I don't think he knew where the line was that you could like overstep and say. And I'm like, I stopped and I was like, listen, I could see him like, when we do a take, he would like delete it, and they'd be like, let's just try that again, and I'm like, hey, next time just tell me, hey Tiff, that wasn't good, and then do this differently or whatever. I appreciate that so much more because I can actually do my job.
Right.
And so I just like to know, like, everyone I work with, I'm like, don't butter it up for me.
Well, that's the thing, is that some people, they don't know their boundaries, or, sometimes they're like, oh, I'm just being honest, but sometimes it can come across as being completely rude.
Yeah.
And unnecessary. So I can totally see why.
Yeah, it's like, but if you met, like, again, my parents are wonderful people, but my mom is like, so that she's like such a spark plug.
Right.
I'd get off stage, it would be like a 4-hour bar gig, and she'd be like, yeah, that second set, I don't know, Tiff, what was up with that? I'm like, Mom, it's like 1 a.m. I don't like, what do you mean?
I thought I did well.
I'm like, it's really loud in here, and she's like, hey, if you can't take the criticism, and I'm like, okay, all right. But now I love it.
So some of the biggest influences in your music career has been like Celine Dion, Faith Hill.
Yeah.
Who else is on that list?
For different reasons, so LeAnn Rimes was the reason why I even got into country music.
Okay.
And it was actually when I heard her rendition of the national anthem.
Really?
Yeah, and I was so little, and I remember like sitting down by a telephone, and when I would be free, like my sister was in school and I wasn't, and I would call or like cold call people like from the telephone book, like
right.
That existed. And I would just like be like, hey, do you have a moment? Like, I'd love to sing you a song. And then I would like sing them God Bless America or the national anthem. And so then I realized there was a lot more music other than patriotic music.
Right.
Which is great. I was like, there's either Celine Dion or patriotic music. And then I'm like, wow, there's a whole other world. And then she put out like How Do I Live and all that, and I just started diving into country, and that's when I found Faith Hill, Martina McBride, and then flash forward years later, Carrie Underwood is such a big influence. Right. Because I like, in my journey right now, I'm perfecting being a vocalist and an entertainer. That's where my heart is, not necessarily in songwriting yet. So I look to people like Carrie Underwood and people like Celine Dion, who can take a song that might not have been written by them and like blow you out of the room, and it makes you feel something, and it's like you don't question like necessarily who the writer was. It's just, did they make you feel something? That's their job, and that's what I want to do. And I kind of feel like she's like the country Celine Dion. She can just like, it's unreal.
Yeah, Carrie Underwood, I mean, her voice is just ridiculous. It's like a whole different level.
It is. And then that's how I feel about Celine Dion. I remember the first time I saw her, I think I was 5 in concert, and I vividly remember being like the youngest person at the concert because my mom like forced us to listen to her. She's like, no, you don't understand. And so I've seen her now like 7 or 8 times, and every time it baffles me that she gets better.
She is. She's like, I mean, over the years I've just seen her grow, and like every time you think that she loves her skin, it's like she just loves it even more the next time you see her.
Oh yeah, like I cry when I see her. It's just it's unreal, and I just knew it when I saw her the first time. I think a lot of kids, when you say like, I want to be a ballerina, I want to be a fireman or whatever. I don't think you actually really know what you want to do with your future at 5 or 6. But when I saw her hold a microphone and there were thousands of people in a room, and she got to wear all these cute sparkly outfits, I was like, whatever she's doing, I've got to do that. And so from then on, every year, like when you like you go to each grade like second, first.
Right.
You know, I went backward.
It's
I didn't
okay.
go backward.
Totally
I went forward, guys. But like every year when you write like what you want to be when you grow up, I never changed my answer.
Really?
It was always a singer, and that had never changed. And so then I got into like cheerleading and law, which I started doing like up in high school. But I just realized it was just all of that was just another form of being an entertainer.
Yeah, true.
And being on stage in front of people. So that's when I realized I was like, okay, no, this is I just really like being on stage and like entertaining. And then I just never let singing go.
Well, it's good. I mean, if your heart says it's there, you got to follow it.
Yeah.
Wherever it ends up taking you, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, you might be on like sharing a stage with Carrie Underwood.
That would be absolutely
amazing.
incredible. That would be the plan A. And like I said, there was no plan B. Because plan B is like admitting that plan A didn't work.
Right.
So I'm not a quitter. But I had always told myself that like if it wasn't being an artist that ended up being fulfilled, like that dream, that I would absolutely love to work like at a label or somewhere independently and kind of make someone else's dreams come true. So if it wasn't me, then find a girl just like me and actually make that work for them, because I know what it means to someone like me and how long it takes and how it does take a village. It's like, even if you're independent is like a very like loosely termed like used word, because it still takes a group of people around you to get like the ball rolling and just to be even heard. So I look at every independent and even people who are signed and knowing how long it took them to get to that point, and knowing that if it's not me in those shoes, I would love to sit down and actually be someone that they can look back and say like, yeah, she like really helped me get to where I wanted to be. So music in general is my future.
So you'll be there regardless.
I'll be good there regardless. I'm not leaving Nashville. That's like my home now.
So let's talk a little bit about your EP. Now you have a couple of songs on there. Last Call, Weakness, Spark, Love Has No Heart, Priceless.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the EP.
So the EP actually took 6 years in the making to come down to 4 songs.
That is definitely patience.
Very patient. And because I'm not writing my own music, it is a part of my story. And for me, I wasn't like the girl who was really young writing in the diary. I was, like I said, I was just wanting to sing. That's what I love to do. And when I started working in Nashville about 6 years ago, I realized it is all about the song. And it is a community of thousands of amazing songwriters. And we're in this wonderful little time right now of the singer-songwriter genre, which I think is incredible. But there's so many writers right now where their music, it's not going to get heard. It's going to just collect dust and sit on a shelf somewhere. And that is really disappointing. And I would love to be a vehicle for that. Like, as long as I can connect to that song the way they connected to it when they wrote it, then we can build this together. Like, I always want to succeed with people, not alone, because I don't think that's ever really that fun. And my EP kind of tells a story of my journey of finding love. So
I was gonna say, I feel like it's totally like a whole love album here.
it is, and I don't know if I see myself changing courses on that, at least for a while, just because for me as a listener, before I was even an artist, I listen to mainly songs that are about love, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because in my opinion, someone's always falling in love, someone's always falling out of love. Those songs aren't ever going to go out of style.
Right.
Like you can always relate to that because you have felt all of those emotions all wrapped up into one.
Even if you want to admit it, you have felt them.
Yeah, and they're really nostalgic. And I think that's so great for the listener. So for me, I kind of even ordered them in like a process of how my journey is of finding love and my ups and my downs, because I always admit that I'm the girl that wears her heart on her sleeve, and as fast as I like get my heart broken, I can get right back up and start that process all over again.
Right.
And some of the songs on that album are just like so incredibly personal to me now. Like just they always were, but then they take even more of a meaning as you continue to perform them and tell its story. One of them, Love Has No Heart, was the one that genuinely, I think out of all of them means the most to me. And at first I didn't think it was going to until I actually went to record it. So when it was pitched to me, I found out that it was on hold for Brett Young. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting that now. I'm like,
Right.
All right. I'm like, but he's going to do a great job, you know. And then I even thought, how did I get pitched that song? Like, that's a blessing all in itself that I'm getting, like, allowed to be able to be heard some of these songs with that kind of a caliber. And I was in a really happy relationship at the time. I'd been with him for 4 years at that time, and I was about to move to Nashville. And then I was like, well, I'm really, really happy in love. This song is meant to be told by somebody where like they can do it right, you know, like, and I was like, I don't think maybe I'm in that place. Like, that's not fair. This song is deserving of a platform to be heard from someone who's kind of going through it. Moved to Nashville, wasn't even there that long. He calls me and says, like, I don't love you anymore. I'm never going to move to Nashville. Hasta la vista. And at that time, I'm like, I wasn't even thinking about the song anymore. I'm like, oh my gosh, what?
Thinking about my heart.
Yeah, like everything just kind of like started crumbling below me. And then I got a call a week later from a lady by the name of Carolyn Mobley who helps me find these songs, and we've become great friends over the last 6-7 years. And she was like, hey, Brett isn't going to cut it, and you're next in line. But you have to get into the studio like next week. And I was like, like
right now you can relate to the song.
Yeah, and I couldn't have written something more like that was accurate to how I was feeling than what the song I'd already said. And what was even more eerie about the whole thing is that I found out that the song was written a month before me and that guy had actually even met. So it was like the song was and no one was cutting it. For 5 years it was collecting the dust, and it was like it was waiting for me. Like, to actually, like, the relationship was never supposed to work out.
Right.
And it was, like, there for me to tell the story, which was just really cool.
Yeah, it's always amazing when you go through, like, things like that and you realize, okay, it was meant for something. I was meant to learn something. Like, at the moment, you're just like, why?
Why?
Like, why?
Yeah.
But then when you go through the emotions, you're like, okay, now what have I learned from this? Now it's time to pick myself back up, and keep going.
And the song helped me do that. And that's another reason why it's like how music is so important and healing and brings everyone together. Like, you could be from anywhere part of the world, and music just brings people together.
Right.
And that song in particular helped me get through everything. It took 3 times in the recording studio to get it because I was a mess. And then the second time I came in, I was such a mess that I got sick, and so I couldn't sing. And then I was like, maybe third time's a charm, or maybe I'm just not meant for this. And then we ended up getting it perfect. Third time's a charm. It worked out.
That's amazing. That is amazing. All right, so where do you see yourself 5 years from now, or where you hope to see yourself?
I want to be in this career, and I don't want just kind of one song that works out. I want a career of longevity. I think a lot of people say like, oh, I want a record deal, or oh, I want a #1 on the radio, and those things are all well and good, but that can easily disappear as well.
Right.
I want longevity. So I would love to be on tours. I want to be on stage. I'd love to see myself on an opening leg act back in 5 years. I mean, I just hope to be still doing what I love and putting out music and relating to people and having people love my music. I mean, I think that's all you can really ask for, and that's definitely what I'm after.
Well, that's awesome. So you're going to play a couple of songs for us.
Yeah.
Now, which one are you going to play for us? Or which one first? I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's okay. How about we do Love Has No Heart? Okay. Since I just
you just talked about it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, where can people find your music?
Everywhere where music is bought. So iTunes, you can stream it on Spotify, it's on Amazon Music, it's everywhere.
Now your website?
My full name, Tiffany Woys. Everything, my Instagram, Twitter, everything is just under my full name.
Awesome. Well, I will link everything below. Want to thank you for having some coffee with us, and we'll step all this aside and get you going.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.